Hi everybody, welcome to Class 4 of Map Painting and Digital Environments. I'm Mike James, and today we're going to be looking at kind of starting to comp it all together for this other concept. Now here's a render just of a camera. It's basically kind of a wide. I think it's about a 24mm. Here's the model. Now I spent a bit of time, I haven't really spent any more time on the model, but just spent a bit of time putting some lighting in and setting up the render passes and set up a couple of cameras. So today we'll just be talking about, I'll be looking at lighting and cameras and render passes in Modo and then exporting those to PSD, and then we'll quickly go through texturing some of it up. Quickly talking about lighting, now all I did with these, I'll just show you the render so you can see how it looks. That's basically the beauty pass of this camera. As I mentioned last week, the GDEC wide and all the shots I did for GDEC for Back to Earth, I had these kind of skylights at the top that I used as basically, use physical sky outside those, and they cast this big amount of global illumination into the scene, which helped just light everything and obviously makes it simpler. Using incidental lights as well and directionals, but you get this kind of overall light coming through the skylights, so that helps a lot for lighting. Now, in this scene here in particular, I haven't done that, but what I have done is there's area lights above each column. You can see there's a few at the back, and there's a cylinder light under here, and then this engine bay, whatever it is, thing underneath casts this like orange glow. And you can see here it's nice to have a bit of kind of varying colour. Now I think the directionals I've got on the top are it's bluey green, and then the orange there is a nice contrast. Now I wanted to talk about kind of little lights, I guess like little point lights. Now, yes, I would normally do that. Add little lights, I guess, into little machines here, and anything you can do to add little lighting detail is great. But it does take a lot of time and adds render time, and for this. I guess, for this, I thought, it probably wasn't necessary, but also because I wanted to talk about, whether it is necessary, because, you've got to take into account that you don't need, tiny little point lights aren't going to cast any detailed shadows, or, they add a bit of life, but you can also do them in map painting, so you don't necessarily need to do them in 3D, and just, as I said, it just takes up time, so you got to kind of weigh up whether you need to do them in 3D or not. Obviously, you do need, big lights. You need to be able to light the scene, and then you also need lighting to, that may be needed, say, like on Red Dwarf, where I knew I had characters that are being lit, and I kind of knew where the cameras were going to be coming from. So, there were certain lights I needed to use, and, that will usually, I guess, happen in any scene. So, I mean, in part of pre-production, you want to know where the lighting will come from, whether it being an interior or exterior or whatever. If you get told, it's a sunset scene and then it's the middle of the day, obviously that's just going to be completely wrong. So, that's, a big part of pre-production. And I guess, and cameras are another one of those. I wanted to talk about that because I think I mentioned it, couple of lessons ago, that you can join a couple. It is possible to join cameras together. Now, you might have, say, like I had in Red Dwarf, 6 or 8 kind of cameras, right? Well, there may be more, but you can often join those together. And I've kind of done an example of that here. Okay, so you can see here, say you've got this shot here, which is camera 2 or camera B. This is a 50mm lens, kind of a mid shot, looking across the deck. So you may have, a full body character or two here, or they may be on the staircase and you're kind of semi-wide. But anyway, so say you have camera B here. Now, depending on circumstance, you may be able to, you may get, say, camera C is that, right? So if you take camera in the same position and then say the director wants to put 105 mil or something on it, basically the camera just zooms in and then you've got a whole new shot here. Now, if that was the case, or you can convince the director or whoever to do that, you then get two cameras out of one shot. Now, resolution comes into play then, because what you need to do is, if your mats are 2K, which is often the case, you need this to be 2K, so your wide needs to be 4, or that shot in particular. Now, that's something that you really need to take into consideration in pre-production, because you don't want to go and do all the work on this main camera here at 2K and then go and find out, oh look, I've got a camera here, but the res doesn't hold up, because you're basically going to have to interpolate that. So obviously you have, to some degree you can, and especially if it's going out of focus, but generally you can work out what's necessary. Now, if though, for example, the director wants that to be the camera, so say that's the camera's moved forward and it's a 50, so obviously for maybe composition purpose, there may be characters walking up the stairs or something, and you wanted to get more of the columns in, so that obviously is a completely different scenario. But you will have, you'll always have the ability to take what you've done here and comp it down. So you can, with a bit of, I guess, planning, you can reuse textures and reuse cameras. And I'll show you an example from Red Dwarf where I did that. So here was this is two of the cameras. I'll open the PSD. So this is basically a whip of map painting, but there were quite a few shots where I had, a camera here and a camera here and a camera there. So here is a whip of the map painting, but you can see that I've been joining two cameras together. So there's, I think it's part of the dimension cutter scene. Now looking at the renders, you can see there is changes in perspective, but for this production in particular, you'll get away with it because a lot of it will be covered by talent, and no one will really notice. So you could join these two together, which is what I did here, so that you might get a frame here, and then you'll get a frame here, for example. So or a frame there. So I mean, while not technically correct, depending on budget, you may be able to join quite a few cameras together. Now, if then you were doing any projections, that makes it a whole lot more difficult. And I know that came up in the forum. Yes, we will be looking at moving shots in the second half of this course, but the first, these ones in particular I did for Red Dwarf, most of the shots were static. Now, if you wanted to reproject this onto the geometry, obviously any perspective shift and stuff you've cheated, it won't work because the geometry is going to have moved from there to here. So, these are basically static shots, static backgrounds, and, static background map paintings are much easier. Well, not much easier, but they're generally going to they're simpler to deal with than projections. And so, even having to do, say looking at this one, two cams here, even having to do that one and then that one as two completely separate ones, it's still going to be quicker than A, UVing and doing traditional 3D backgrounds, but B, it's still relatively quick, and I'll kind of show you that with the texturing. I mean, that's something you always need to talk about in pre-production and weigh up the advantages and not of doing A, UVing, or B, projections, or C, just doing them static. I mean, usually it's all down to budget.